Louisiana. Congressman Steve Scalise is, of course, the House Republican whip. He joins us live now. Congressman, good to see you. Good morning.
Hey, good to be with both of you.
It's good to have you. What is your sense about where we are on these FISA negotiations in terms of renewing the law or not?
Well, I think they serve an important role in our national security, and we did see abuses with the FISA court. I have very strong concerns about that. I've been vocal that the people who abuse the FISA process need to be held accountable, and frankly, if people go to jail for abusing that court, I don't think we're going to see those kind of abuses again in the future. But I am concerned that the bill that's moving through this week is not, frankly, including enough of the reforms and criminal penalties that need to be included to make sure that if somebody does abuse the FISA court, they will be held accountable. We need to keep those tools in place. They're vital to our national security, but they were abused, and if they're abused again, then people need to be held accountable, and the penalties need to fit the crime, which right now I don't think they do.
So it sounds like you're calling for broader reform. So what specifically would you want to see changed, Congressman?
Well, if you look, Congressman Jordan is proposing a number of changes in committee, and unfortunately Jerry Nadler's trying to make this a very partisan process where he's shutting out the Republican side. But he would be well served to work with both parties and sit down with Congressman Jordan on the reforms that he and the members of his committee have been looking at and responsibly putting together. So far, we're not seeing that cooperation, but we're going to push for the kind of reforms that are necessary to make sure that this important national security tool maintains the ability and the integrity that it deserves, with criminal penalties on the other side if somebody abuses the process, like we've already seen.
So you're looking forward in terms of reforms that Sandra is talking about to try and prevent FISA abuse down the road, have tougher criminal penalties, as you say, for future FISA abuse. But does that mean that essentially Congress has given up on holding anyone accountable for the abuses back in 2016 and 2017?
Not at all. In fact, the Durham report, I am hopeful, is going to literally name names, list the people who did abuse the FISA court, and lay out penalties that then Attorney General Barr can go and carry out. There's still a lot left to do by the Attorney General to hold people accountable who abuse the process, and I hope he does. Again, to maintain the integrity of this program that's important in national security, you have to hold the people accountable who abused it. And I hope that Attorney General Barr uses all the tools he has available. I want him to have even more tools, but he does have some existing tools in place that he can use and hopefully will use when the Durham report comes out to hold those people accountable. And frankly, I think people should go to jail for those abuses, and that's still possible under current law. I think the penalties can be stronger, but current law does give the Attorney General that ability.
Quoting Lindsey Graham, he says it's going to take a lot of what Horowitz did and add his own stamp on it, talking about Bill Barr and those proposals. Moving on to a headline in the Hill this morning, lawmakers raise alarms over Trump coronavirus response. Your colleague, Chairman Richard Shelby, Republican from Alabama, Senate Appropriations Committee, said that the White House's budget request to handle the disease was lackluster. Where is your level of concern with the coronavirus and the spread of it here at home, and how the White House is handling this?
Well, I think we all ought to be very concerned about the coronavirus, especially considering the fact that we can't get enough information out of China. We know that that's where the predominant number of cases are, but we don't know much about it, and we've tried to get that information. I think President Trump's administration has handled this incredibly well. Like I was here in Congress when you had the Ebola outbreak, and we had a very lackluster response. We could not get information out of the administration throughout Ebola, but what you're seeing, we've had a number of briefings by the administration, and President Trump's been very clear that he's going to address the nation tonight, so you'll hear a lot more. But his health agencies, and I've met with his top health experts on coronavirus, they've offered to go and help in China. They've tried to get information from China on what's really happening there, and frankly, I think it's incredibly disappointing that China won't share that information, because there's a lot we can do to help save lives there and prevent it from spreading, not just in America, but throughout the world.
Congressman, let's get specific in the last minute we have. To Sandra's point, a Republican, Richard Shelby, in the Senate is saying that $2.5 billion that the president wants for this emergency is not enough. Chuck Schumer is saying it should be $8.5 billion. Where do you think all this winds up? How much money do we need?
Well, Congress gets the opportunity to debate that. Chuck Schumer's never, by the way, laid out what he's for. He just wants to be against whatever the president's for. This is not a political issue. Coronavirus doesn't care about your party affiliation if it's going to strike. Luckily, we've been able to limit its influence coming into the United States, but we don't know ultimately what's going to happen because we can't find out all the information. Let's go and debate this here in Congress. The president has laid out a request. He's going to address the nation tonight. If Congress feels like more is needed, then we'll have a good, healthy debate here, and let's get it done. Can you give us some idea of what we might hear from the president tonight? Well, again, I think you're going to hear what the president and his administration have already done in terms of health and safety to ensure that the cases that we know about in other parts of the world don't end up here in the United States. But also, there's a lot that we've offered to help China with and asked for information from China that they've not shared. Let's get the information out there, but people need to take all the normal precautions they would take during a heavy flu season, which we're also seeing. And that is wash your hands. Just be careful of your surroundings.
Congressman Steve Scalise, busy day on the Hill. Appreciate you stopping in, sir.
Thank you, Congressman.
All right.